This is a tradition for incoming medical students at the University of Toledo. Today, they received their white coats. Students also recited the Medical Student Pledge of Ethics. This year's class represents 14 states, though most of the students are from right here in Ohio. 175 students took part in the white coats ceremony.
It feels so surreal. I can't believe it's actually happening and that the day's finally come. I've been thinking about this day for like as long as I can remember. Getting my white coat, getting my stethoscope, feeling so official.
I'm feeling a little nervous. I'm feeling blessed. I feel really excited for what's ahead.
All the staff, faculty, everybody at Toledo has been very welcoming, very cheerful, excited for us to be here, so I'm very excited to get started.
I was part of like the REACH program, so that was like in freshman year of high school, and we got a chance to shadow at the medical school here and shadow like different physicians. It was like a month-long program, and it was super interesting because even as like a 14-year-old, I was still exposed to like doctors and seeing like what they do. So I love how Toledo had that opportunity for high schoolers.
Finding a place that was going to support me in my journey, wanting me to succeed, a really collaborative culture where no one's trying to beat me for the top, just really try to all work together to succeed.
So I decided to apply to a lot of schools in Ohio because I'm from Cleveland, didn't really want to be far from home. And then once I got an interview, I came here and I really just fell in love. It's a very collaborative environment. I like that a lot. And seeing faculty and staff really be here to help you and not just teach you and make you an overall well-rounded physician. And I really think I'm going to get that here at Toledo.
University of Toledo College of Medicine and Life Sciences held its annual Match Day celebration for fourth-year medical students at the Stranahan Theater today. This event is one of the most highly anticipated moments of medical school. Match Day is when aspiring physicians across the country learn where they'll spend their residency training after graduation.
Where are you off to?
Here, Toledo.
All right, you excited? Tell me about it.
Yeah, no, super excited.
We finally found out where we got jobs as doctors, and I'm going to Harvard.
Yeah.
And Dr. Quinn has been one of the best mentors I've ever had at UT, and so just seeing him made it feel real, and I'm so happy right now.
More than 150 medical students participated today.
Good afternoon. Everyone, please stand for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Everyone, please be seated. Thank you so much for the performance of our national anthem by the University of Toledo's own Health Science Campus student groups, Docapella and Vocal Remedy. On behalf of all of the faculty and staff of the university's College of Medicine and Life Sciences, I'm honored to preside over today's commencement exercises. It is with great pleasure that I welcome the graduates, families, and friends to your graduation. All of us are here today to recognize your many achievements. Would all of the members of the University of Toledo College of Medicine and Life Sciences class of 2023 please stand to be recognized? You may be seated. Thank you and congratulations. These ladies and gentlemen have done remarkable things in science education and patient care. Some, through diligent efforts in the lab, have presented their scientific accomplishments in prestigious national meetings and have published in nationally recognized journals. Other students have tutored their peers, students in other programs, or volunteered with school children in our neighborhood. College of Medicine and Life Sciences students contribute to thousands of hours of peer tutoring, creating a culture of collaboration. Our students have also learned to care and have cared for others locally and around the world. These students before you have volunteered countless hours at the community care clinic, and we have seen them in action in the clinic, the operating room, and beside the hospital bed here in Toledo, and on medical missions throughout the developing world. Ladies and gentlemen, they are well prepared for a world that needs talented, hardworking, and prepared adults who will discover solutions to the world's needs through research, who will educate others, and will provide care for all people. To further their training, many of today's graduates will soon transition into residency programs, postdoctoral training labs, educational institutions, hospitals, industry, and government agencies locally and throughout our nation. They will join our alumni who are prominent teachers and clinicians and scientists and administrators in the worlds of medicine and science in America and around our world. Many individuals whose efforts have resulted in successful institution of which we are so proud of are with us today. The University of Toledo has tremendous support from our Board of Trustees, and it is my pleasure to recognize board member Dr. Eleanor Awadala, who is with us today. Will you please stand to be recognized? Thank you for your support of our university and our college. Next, I'm honored to recognize Dr. Gregory Postal, the 19th president of the University of Toledo, who will be conferring the degrees awarded today. President Postal, will you please stand to be recognized? I would also like to extend a very special welcome to our honorary degree recipient and today's commencement speaker, Dr. David Williams. Would you please stand? Certainly, one of the reasons for the success of the college is the contribution of our academic and clinical affiliates. From our own hospital, UTMC, our local partner, ProMedica, throughout Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan, to our global affiliates around the world, these institutions and preceptors willingly accept our students into training and do an excellent job of educating them. Thank you all for the support and essential collaboration you provide in the education of these students. I would also like to ask that the College of Medicine and Life Sciences faculty members and leadership team in the college and the hospital to stand and to be recognized for your efforts in the education of our graduates. Special recognition goes to Dr. Obi Aquina, Chair of the College of Medicine's Faculty Council, who is the Grand Marshal for the processional for today's ceremony. Thank you all. Finally, I would like to take a moment on this special day to recognize one more group of special heroes, often unsung, without whom this day would have not been possible. A group of individuals who work selflessly to provide cheer and support, to offer judgment and counsel, and just be there when needed for that moment of joy or sadness. Would the parents, spouses, partners, and children of the graduates please stand to be recognized? Thanks to all of you, and congratulations. It is now my great pleasure to ask Dr. President Postal to come to the podium to provide a greeting from the university.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cooper, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us to celebrate the class of 2023. We are thankful to have so many excited graduates, proud parents, family members, and friends, and dedicated faculty and staff who have joined us here today or who are tuning in virtually to make this a celebration to remember for our graduates. Today marks a major milestone, one that our graduates, their families, and our faculty have long awaited. It is a day to celebrate personal achievement, the rewards of much studying, and the many opportunities that your degree from the University of Toledo College of Medicine and Life Sciences brings. I want to thank our graduates for choosing the University of Toledo to help them prepare for future success. We are honored to share this celebration with you and your loved ones. We are proud of your successes to date, and we look forward to your future accomplishments. I would like to recognize the faculty, advisors, staff, and mentors whose work has supported the achievements we celebrate today. Thank you for your unwavering dedication to our students, your wisdom and real-world experience, and your ongoing pursuit of innovative research, all critical components in ensuring University of Toledo students reach their full potential. I would also like to take a moment to recognize all of the special people in the support systems for our graduates, whether they are your parents, friends, a spouse, partner, children, siblings, or grandparents. To all of these individuals who have supported you, I want to say thank you. Thank you for reaching out to your graduate to offer advice, to cheer them on when times were the most difficult, for listening when they needed encouragement, for boosting their confidence when they doubted themselves, and for laughing with them to lighten their spirits. And to our graduates, congratulations as you move forward, ready to tackle your next adventure as our newest UToledo alumni. Please know that all of us in Rocket Nation are supporting your success. You are ready for whatever the future brings, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Postal. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Thomas Mihalis, University of Toledo class of 1975 and MCO class of 1978. Dr. Mihalis completed his intern in internal medicine at Michigan State University and is ophthalmology resident at the Medical College of Ohio. He then went on to become a neuro-ophthalmology fellow at the Massachusetts General Hospital, Harvard University. He returned to MCO and served as chief of ophthalmology from 1992 to 2006 and retired from private practice in 2017 and still remains active in many professional organizations.
Thank you for the privilege to speak on behalf of the University of Toledo College of Medicine and Life Sciences Alumni Affiliate. On behalf of Dr. Kathy Franco-Brunson, President of the Alumni Affiliate, we extend our congratulations to all the graduates and to all the individuals who've helped you reach your important milestone. We are also excited to welcome all of today's graduates as the newest members of our Alumni Affiliate. Alumni are among an institution's most precious assets, and you are now joining the ranks of over 9,000 alumni from the University of Toledo College of Medicine and Life Sciences. You are making a difference in communities around the country and in the world. Graduates, your world is vastly different than when we were in school. You have new opportunities and challenges. Examples would include the COVID-19 pandemic and now long COVID, the industrial medical complex, electronic health records, a greater appreciation for the social determinants of health, personalized care through treatment heterogeneity, a better understanding of the neurobiology of psychiatric diseases, personalized stem cell therapy, robotic surgery, and machines possessing artificial intelligence. What has not changed, however, is exemplified by what our affiliate members witnessed when we visited your community care clinic, where you provided free health care with dignity. Though you will not be able to heal every patient, I implore you to show compassion when they mourn their loss of function and health and their sense of meaning and purpose. The healing profession is a team effort. To your staff and co-workers, be kind. Today, the College of Medicine and Life Sciences Alumni Affiliate is pleased to present each graduate with a gift. The graduating physicians will receive a stethoscope. The graduating doctoral candidates will receive a hand-blown glass paperweight produced here in the city of Toledo, the glass capital of the world. And master's candidates will also receive a parting gift. In addition, all those graduating today will receive a complimentary one-year membership to the University of Toledo Alumni Association. In closing, the alumni of the College of Medicine and Life Sciences applaud you for all that you've done, and all that you've achieved, and all that you're destined to do in the future. The University of Toledo Alumni Association and the College of Medicine and Life Sciences Alumni Affiliate look forward to developing a lifelong relationship with you and will continue to support you throughout your career. Godspeed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mihalis. One of the traditions of commencement is the awarding of honorary degrees in recognition of persons for outstanding contributions to their professions and to society as a whole. Today, we have the honor of bestowing an honorary degree to a distinguished individual who has made a remarkable contribution to how we understand the detriments of health in our country and in our world. President Postal, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. David Williams, a social scientist. Dr. Williams is the Florence and Laura Norman Professor of Public Health and Chair, Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. He is also Professor of African and African American Studies and Sociology at Harvard University. He holds a master's in public health from Loma Linda and a PhD in sociology from the school up north. Dr. Williams is an internationally recognized authority on the social determinants of health. He has been invited to keynote scientific conferences in Europe, Africa, Australia, the Middle East, South America, the Caribbean, but not in Antarctica. The author of more than 500 scientific papers, his research has enhanced our understandings of the ways race, racism, socioeconomic status, stress, health behavior, and religion affect physical and mental health. The everyday discrimination scale that he developed is the most widely used measure of discrimination in health studies. As an example, this past month, a National Institutes of Health funded study using this tool demonstrated the negative effects of racism on cardiovascular death and deaths from all causes. He was elected to the National Academy of Medicine, the National Academy of Arts and Sciences, and the National Academy of Sciences. He also received Distinguished Contribution Awards from the American Sociological Association, the American Psychological Association, the New York Academy of Medicine, the Association of University Programs in Health Administration, and the Office of Behavioral and Social Sciences at the NIH. He was ranked as one of the top 10 most cited social scientists in the world and the most cited Black scholar in the social sciences worldwide. He was also ranked by Thomson Reuters as one of the world's most influential scientific minds. Dr. Williams has been involved in the development of health policy at the national level in the United States and has served on federal advisory committees and testified at congressional briefings. He has served on 10 committees for the National Academy of Medicine. He and his research have been featured in some of the nation's top print and television news organizations, and his TED Talk has been translated into 22 languages and has received more than 1.8 million views. With funding from the National Institutes of Health and sponsorship from the World Health Organization, Dr. Williams directed the South African Stress and Health Study, the first nationally representative study of the prevalence and correlates of mental health disorders in sub-Saharan Africa. He also worked on ethnic inequities with the Toronto Public Health Department, the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, and the Pan American Health Organization. He currently serves on the Board of Trustees of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, on the W.K. Kellogg Foundation Solidarity Council on Racial Equity, and on the board of the UK's National Health Service Race and Health Observatory. President Postal, it is now my distinct honor to present to you Dr. David Williams.
Dr. Williams, we are honored to have you with us today. Upon the recommendation of the faculty and by the authority vested in me by the state of Ohio and the trustees of the University of Toledo, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Honorary Doctor of Science, honoris causa, in recognition of your outstanding contributions and your service to humanity.
Thank you, President Postel and Dean Cooper. I am so honored and thrilled to be here with you and with all of these distinguished graduates today. Class of 2023, it is an honor, as I just said, to share this special day with you. Seated before us today, audience, I believe, is one of the most outstanding classes that has ever graduated from the University of Toledo College of Medicine and Life Sciences. So it is a distinct honor for me to participate in this special ceremony that celebrates your resignation from the University of Toledo student body and your rising to newness of life in the University of Toledo Alumni Association. You've passed the exams, you've gained the clinical experience, you've written the papers and completed the experiments, and now you are free. You are free of the pressure of exams, you are free of class assignments, you are free to move on to the next stage of your life, and you are free to begin paying back your student loans. Second, I want to pay a word of tribute to the loving parents and family and their friends of the graduates. It took your love and caring and your sacrifice of financial resources, as well as your blood, sweat, toil, tears, and prayers to make this day possible. You stood by your graduate through good times and bad. You deserve all the credit in the world for making this day possible. Class of 2023, you are in fact very special. You are joining a very special group of people on planet Earth today. Only 1% of the world's population has a bachelor's degree or more education. So, in graduating today, you are accomplishing something that more than 99% of the world's population has not. And if we situate your graduation in the US context, you are still very special. Only 13% of American adults aged 25 and over have a master's, professional, or doctoral degree. So you are accomplishing today something that 87% of American adults have not. But class of 2023, you are not just another cohort. You are a special cohort because you are completing your studies in an unprecedented time. When it comes to the health of our nation, we face great challenges, and there are enormous opportunities for you to make a difference. According to a report from the Commonwealth Fund, the United States is spending more money on health care than any other country in the world, but our health outcomes are worsening. America is 4% of the world's population, but in 2021 spent 48% of all the money spent on medical care in the world. Healthcare spending per person and a share of GDP continues to be far higher in the US than in other high-income countries. Yet, the US is the only country that doesn't have universal health coverage. And compared to other high-income countries, the US has the lowest life expectancy at birth and the highest death rate for avoidable or treatable conditions, the highest maternal and infant mortality, and among the highest suicide rates. The US also has the highest rate of people with multiple chronic conditions and an obesity rate nearly twice that of the OECD average. And Americans see physicians less often than people in other high-income countries. One of the problems is that of all the money spent on healthcare in America, only a tiny fraction is spent on health promotion and disease prevention. A study published in the journal Circulation last month found that people with higher scores of cardiovascular health lived up to 9 years longer on average than those with the lowest scores. The scores measured adherence to a set of behaviors and health factors developed by the American Heart Association known as Life's Essential 8. What is Life Essential 8? Stop smoking, eat a healthy diet, get regular exercise, get adequate sleep, maintain a healthy body weight, and control blood pressure, blood glucose, and cholesterol levels. An earlier study also found that adults with greater adherence to these metrics live longer without chronic disease than those with lower scores. In other words, we know what it takes to help Americans live longer and healthier, but we are not investing in enabling Americans to live a healthy lifestyle. And just last month, an article in the New York Times dramatically summarized one aspect of the health crisis that most Americans are unaware of. It was entitled, "Deaths Among Children Are Now Driving the Country's Life Expectancy Declines." It showed that Americans are now dying younger on average than they used to. Young Americans are dying at a higher rate than young people in any of our peer countries. And they are dying younger than people in China, in Cuba, in the Czech Republic, or in Lebanon. And that, if you think it's just a problem of the 70-year-olds aren't living to see 80, this is a problem driven by the deaths of children and teenagers. 1 in 25 American 5-year-olds today will not live to age 40. Children in America now have a death rate that is 4 times that of children in other wealthy countries. And the pandemic is not a major contributor to this pattern. Although an increase in death rates for the young have been dramatic since the beginning of the pandemic, only 2% of American pediatric and juvenile deaths have come from COVID-19. Firearms account for almost half of the increase. In 2021, additionally, more than twice as many American kids died from poisoning, including drug overdoses, as from COVID-19. And more than 3 times as many died of suicide. More than 4 times as many died from homicide. And more than 5 times as many died in car crashes and other transportation accidents. And this longevity decline is not uniform. Black Americans, on average, can expect to live 5 years fewer than white Americans. Black American men have lower life expectancies than men in Rwanda and North Korea. White Americans, in turn, can expect to live 7 years fewer than Asian Americans. And life expectancy in the Black Belt of the Deep South is as much as 20 years lower than it is north of the Mason-Dixon line and west of the Mississippi, according to the American Inequality Project. And Dr. Stephen Wolf, a physician at Virginia Commonwealth University, has been a leader in research in the last 2 decades, and he indicates that more than 60 countries in the world have higher life expectancy than the United States. 17 of those countries have had higher life expectancy than we had for 50 years. We know what needs to be done. What we lack is the political will. So class of 2023, what can you do? How can you make a difference? I want to showcase for you several health professionals today that have made a difference. Several years ago, I was invited to speak for a conference in Wichita, Kansas, that had been organized by the Center for Health and Wellness. This center had been developed by a nurse practitioner named Arnitha Martin. Arnitha was raised in the African American community in that town. She had personally experienced many barriers to health care, and she firmly believed that those barriers could be reduced. So she went to the business community and single-handedly raised the money to start a state-of-the-art primary healthcare center in her neighborhood. So in 1998, this almost 8,000 square foot facility was opened. It had 6 exam rooms, and the center sees about 15,000 patients annually. I visited the center, and when I walked in, I felt like I had entered an African art museum with all the beautiful pictures that were on the wall. But the most impressive thing about the center was the innovation I observed. Less than 30% of the patients at that center are insured. The center uses a sliding fee scale for the uninsured and provides uncompensated care to the very poor. However, every client who goes to the center knows that their insurance and their economic status is unrelated to the quality and quantity of care that they will receive. That is dramatically communicated to every client because questions about insurance coverage or how they will pay for their care are not raised until the end of their healthcare visit after they have received all of their needed medical care. And there are options to pay for their care. Clients can pay for the services received by volunteering at a clinic, $10 deducted from their bill for every hour volunteered at the clinic. Clients can also deduct $10 from their bill for each hour spent in a health education class at the center. And when I was at the center, I also visited a room called the Stork's Nest, stocked full with baby supplies, everything that an expectant mother would need for her new baby. And a pregnant woman earns points for each prenatal appointment that she keeps. Towards the end of her pregnancy, she can cash in her points and get items from the Stork's Nest. I'm saying to you, class of 2023, Arnitha Martin is making a difference, and you can make a difference. Another person. Thank you. Another hero of mine is Dr. Jack Geiger. At the age of 95, he died in 2020. And he was a physician who made an enormous difference in this world. In 1947, Jack Geiger enrolled as a pre-med student at the University of Chicago. He discovered racial discrimination there, black patients being excluded from certain hospitals and qualified black students being rejected by the medical school. Jack fought those policies for 3 years and ultimately helped organize a 1,000-strong faculty and student protest strike. He paid a price for his rabble-rousing. The American Medical Association, no less, wrote to medical schools warning of his extracurricular activities, and no school would accept him. He had, in effect, been blacklisted. For the next 5 years, he worked as a journalist. But in 1954, at the age of 29, he was admitted to what is now Case Western Reserve University's medical school. And Jack, in his medical care, redefined what it means to be a physician. He promoted the idea that doctors should use their expertise and moral authority not just to treat illness, but to change the conditions that made people sick in the first place. Conditions like poverty, hunger, discrimination, joblessness, and lack of education. In the 1960s, Jack Geiger was a co-founder of the first community health center in the United States in the Columbia Point neighborhood of Boston. And then, later the same year, a second center was opened in Mount Bayou in the Mississippi Delta. These centers provided desperately needed health care, but also food, sanitation, education, jobs, and social services. Jack Geiger would write prescriptions for food for families with malnourished children. These prescriptions could be filled at a local black-owned grocery store, and it was paid for out of the health center's pharmacy budget. The governor of Mississippi complained, and federal officials were sent to Mount Bayou to scold Dr. Geiger for misusing pharmacy funds. Dr. Geiger replied to the official that in all the medical textbooks he had read, the specific therapy for malnutrition was food. The official returned to Washington and left Dr. Geiger alone. These 2 community centers that he started inspired a national network of clinics. Today, there are more than 1,300 community centers that serve about 28 million low-income patients every year. Dr. Geiger was also a founding member of 2 award-winning social advocacy groups. One of them, Physicians for Social Responsibility, shared the 1985 Nobel Prize for its efforts to end the nuclear arms race. And the other, Physicians for Human Rights, shared the 1997 Nobel Prize for working to ban landmines across the world. Yes, Jack Geiger made a difference. Class of 2023, you can make a difference. Another of my heroes is Dr. Richard Hart, a physician who is the president of Loma Linda University Health in Southern California. Loma Linda University Health has 8 schools, including a medical, dental, nursing, and public health school, and its academic medical center operates 6 hospitals. But it sits 2 miles away from the city of San Bernardino, an economically disadvantaged city in the United States. San Bernardino is 60% Latino and has high rates of homelessness and poverty. Loma Linda University has a federally qualified health center in that community for a long time. But a few years ago, they expanded their federally qualified health center with a $68 million, 157,000 square foot clinic and education space with 124 exam rooms, procedure rooms, and 24 dental operatories. It is the largest specialty-based teaching, FQHC center in the nation. Could I get water, please? Thank you so much. But Dr. Hart did more. He wanted to address unemployment in the city. In San Bernardino, only 20% of high school graduates go on to any additional education. So what did Dr. Hart do? He created the top floor of the center and called it a gateway college to lower unemployment and provide job skills for high school graduates. The Gateway College offers certificate programs like Certified Nurse's Assistant, Pharmacy Tech, Surgical Tech, Community Health Worker that all provide entry-level jobs in the healthcare system. A few years ago, I visited the Gateway College, and what was most impressive was that the students spoke about how being at that college had opened their minds and changed the vision for their lives and what was possible. One spoke of plans to eventually go to nursing school. Another spoke about plans of going to medical school. Dr. Hart's Gateway College is making a difference. You can make a difference. Another of my heroes is Dr. Barry Zuckerman, a pediatrician who has devoted his life to making a difference in the lives of students. He was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1946. His brother Elliot has significant intellectual disability, likely related to problems from birth. Back then, public schools did not accept students with such disabilities, and his parents were strong local advocates for improved services for children. These personal experiences shaped his professional priorities. He received his medical degree from Georgetown University in 1972, and he was appointed the chair of pediatrics at Boston Medical Center, a safety net facility, in 1993. He developed the Medical Legal Partnership. With this program, a primary care provider at the Boston Medical Center can refer a patient to a specialist. One of those specialists is a lawyer. The medical legal partnerships helps to improve care by enlisting lawyers to collaborate with the medical care team to assist patients with the health-related social needs that can benefit from legal intervention. The medical legal partnership seeks to address the underlying social and environmental factors in the lives of pediatric patients and their parents. They address problems like food and fuel assistance. However, one of the beauties of the medical legal partnership and why it is so important is imagine a mother bringing her child to a pediatrician and the child has asthma that is secondary to the housing conditions in which they live. All the asthma medication in the world will not help that child breathe symptom-free if the child has to go back and live in the same conditions that caused the problem in the first place. Today, the medical legal partnership is not just in Boston. It operates in 450 healthcare organizations, including 163 health centers, 37 children's hospitals, 29 VA medical centers, and an increasing number of institutions to serve the elderly. Dr. Zuckerman is making a difference. You can make a difference. Dr. Zuckerman is also the co-founder of Reach Out and Read, a national childhood program in the United States. One of his fellows had completed a study that showed that mothers whose children were given children's books at prior visits were 6 times more likely to read to their children compared to mothers who did not get a book. So Dr. Zuckerman co-funded this program, Reach Out to Read, in 1989. He was able to recruit Senator Hillary Clinton and the late Senator Ted Kennedy to become important supporters, and they would show up to health centers where they traveled and have an event along with Dr. Zuckerman that would generate a lot of media attention. And today, there are more than 6,400 clinical locations nationwide that offer the program. As a result of this program, every year, 34,000 medical providers distribute 7.4 million new books to 4.8 million children in the United States. Yes, Dr. Zuckerman is making a difference, and you can make a difference. And so, graduating students, I'm saying to you today, there's a world full of challenges, and each one of you can make a difference, and there are multiple ways to make a difference. Some of you will be there when people take their first breath or their last breath. You can make a difference. Yes, class of 2023, you have the opportunity to change the world. And so I say to you today, the past is yours, learn from it. The present is yours, enrich it. The future is yours, invest and secure it. Knowledge is yours, understand it and use it. Prejudice is yours, fight it. Intolerance is yours, rectify it. Violence is yours, end it. Disease is yours, heal it. Ignorance is yours, eradicate it. Hope is yours, sustain it. People are yours, love them. The world of suffering is yours, serve it. The environment is yours, preserve it. Death is yours, do all in your power to delay it. And life is yours, work every day to preserve and extend it. And when you face a real intractable problem, work with it until you can work through it. When you meet an obstacle, go around it or rise above it. When people are mean to you, forgive them. When they knock you down, get up. When they push you against the ropes, come out swinging. When they laugh at you, keep smiling at them. When they talk about you, just pray for them. And even if they hate you, keep loving them. Never forget the words of Oliver Goldsmith. Success is just getting up one more time than you fall. So even if they try to kill you, Do everything you can to rise again. Go, students of the class of 23. Go and make a difference in the world. Solve the problems. Create solutions. Meet the needs of suffering humanity. Turn dark nights into bright tomorrows. And transform communities of despair into new oases of hope. You can make a difference. You have an extraordinary future, and may each one of you make a major difference in this world. God bless you.
Now you can see why he's one of the world's most influential scientists. We will now begin the presentation of candidates for degrees and certificates. Dr. Candace Williams, Senior Associate Dean for the College of Medicine's graduate programs, and Dr. Randall Worth, Senior Associate Dean for Student Affairs and Admissions, will present the degrees for the University of Toledo College of Medicine and Life Sciences, Class of 2023, followed by Dr. Gregory Postal, President of the University, who will then confer the degrees. Each graduate, starting with recipients of graduate degrees and certificates, will be invited to come forward to the stage on my left. After graduates receive their diploma cases and congratulations, you are asked to return to your seat. Dr. Williams and Dr. Worth.
Will all of the candidates for graduate degrees please stand and remain standing? Dr. Postal, it is my great pleasure to present the candidates for the degrees of Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Science and Master of Science in Biomedical Sciences.
Will the candidates for medical degrees please stand and remain standing? Dr. Postal, it's my great pleasure to present the candidates for the degrees Doctor of Medicine and other combined degrees.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty and by the authority in me vested by the state of Ohio and the trustees of the University of Toledo, I do confer upon all of the qualified candidates, including those in absentia, the degrees for which they have met the requirements. You are charged with the duties and responsibilities of that degree and granted the privileges and prerogatives appertaining thereto, as well as the obligations, duties, and responsibilities of the profession. The doctoral graduates may now move their tassels from the back left of their mortarboards to the front left side. And the master's graduates may move their tassels from the back right of their mortarboards to the back left side of their mortarboards. Congratulations.
Medical degree graduates, you may be seated, please. Dr. Postal, Dr. Cooper, faculty and parents, and guests. The College of Graduate Studies at the University of Toledo enjoys a tradition of excellence in 41 doctoral programs and 129 master's degree programs in 10 colleges across the university. In addition to PhD and master's degree, UT also offers 7 professional doctorate degrees and 10 professional master's degrees. Today, 36 students will be graduating from 5 different graduate degree programs in the College of Medicine and Life Sciences. The recipients for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Science and Master of Science in Biomedical Sciences will have their hoods placed by their special hooder, or Dr. Ivana de la Serna, Associate Professor, Department of Cell and Cancer Biology, and Dr. Nicole Dominiak, Associate Professor of Pathology. At this time, we invite the students to approach the stage. The College of Medicine's doctoral program in biomedical sciences began in 1975. It now trains students to become independent research scientists in the fields of cancer biology, neurosciences and neurological diseases, medical microbiology and immunology, and molecular medicine and bioinformatics. Would the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Science please come forward to be hooded, recognized, and receive congratulations. Dr. Ahmed Abukar. Dr. Rawan Salah Al-Nafisa. Dr. Joshua Breedenbach, to be hooded by Dr. Iram Syed. Dr. Vienna Rochelle Fernando, to be hooded by Dr. Sayori Furuta. Dr. Abdul Riza Ali Hamoud. Dr. Joshua Letson. Dr. Shui Mei, hooded by Dr. Bina Zhou. Dr. Smriti S. Menon, hooded by Dr. Viviana Ferreira. That's it. Please join me in congratulating these newly minted PhDs. The Master of Science in Biomedical Sciences program in the College of Medicine and Life Sciences currently offers advanced study in 14 different areas of concentration. Would the candidates for the degree of Master of Science in Biomedical Sciences please come forward to be hooded, recognized, and receive congratulations. David Ray Janond. Josie Nicole Barger. Jacob Bertimis. Sophie Brown. Ariane Shuvan Kraby. Melissa A. Davis. Amber Leigh Edson. Joshua Gadel Said. Japid Michael Gibbs. Yorknusa M. Gonzalez. Maureen Hack. Joseph Nader Hennen. Vivian N. Isaac. Savannah King. Alexander Logan Cruzel. Diana Marie Loyal. Udarshi Mahendran. Nijar Charchi. Nadine Radwin Mohammed. Caitlin M. Murphy. Georgie Sergio Cioni. Jessica Shantz. Benjamin Zimmer. That's it. You two can sit down. Please join me in congratulating these master's degree recipients. Dr. Cooper, that concludes the presentation of candidates for graduate degrees.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Dr. Williams. At this time, I would like to call upon Dr. Joshua Breidenbach to give the graduate student commencement speech. Dr. Breidenbach is this year's outstanding student in the Doctor of Philosophy and Biomedical Sciences program.
All right, so most of my family didn't know that I was going to give a speech today, so I'm going to give them a second to fumble with their phones. I just turned 30 about 2 or I guess 3 months ago, and I realized that at the time I had spent my entire adult life at the University of Toledo. I started here as an undergraduate student. It was a 5-year program that was supposed to be a 5-year program. And then I went on to a master's degree, which was another 2 years. And then for some reason decided to stick around for another 5 years for the PhD. And I really grew to like this place. And I wasn't sure if this is Stockholm Syndrome or something. I took psychology online in high school, so you can't blame UT for that. But I want to convey that I really do like this place. I've met most of my best friends. I've met very good mentors. I even actually proposed to my fiance in one of the labs here. So trust me. She was actually the pretty lady that hooded me, but yeah, so if later in the presentation you think I'm being a little rude, keep in mind where it's coming from. So I made my way through my PhD studies much the same way that all of these graduate students made it through theirs. I had a favorite TV show or favorite TV shows that I kept rewatching for comfort, and I had a favorite bar, and that bar is the Basement. So the Basement is off of Heather Downs. I recommend that all of you check it out. Some of you have been there with me, actually. And the favorite show, or one of the favorite shows of mine, was Seinfeld. And in season 4, episode 22, Jerry tells this joke about fear. He talks about a public poll that said that people's second biggest fear was death, and their first biggest fear was speaking in front of people. And he thinks it's ridiculous, right? Because he's a stand-up comedian. But me as a introverted scientist type, right, I totally agree with that poll. And in fact, if you notice, I don't have a tassel. I was so worried about this speech, I lost it, and I have no idea where. So, but it's kind of because of that fear that I decided I would just ramble on and on and on, right, to let my mentors who nominated me for this award sort of just burn up in their regalia. But I actually decided against that. And then I thought, well, why am I giving this speech when there are so many graduates out there that have something to say? And I know that you all don't want to listen to us for 25 hours, so I decided I would try to summarize what I think our general message might be. I think we would mostly want to just thank the people that supported us through this, because none of us would have gotten through this if we went at it alone. So first, I'd like to thank our faculty and staff who taught us all the science and medicine that hopefully we'll need to have successful careers. although we still have to test that, so don't celebrate yet, I guess. Thank you to our families who taught us to persevere through the roughest times. Thank you to our friends who taught us how to cope with stress, with distractions, things like D&D and rock climbing. And then lastly, thank you to our pets who really never really understood why we were stressed and probably taught us some perspective of maybe it's really not that big of a deal in the first place. Another joke that Jerry tells in that episode has to do with the fear of success. But here at UT, I don't think we have a fear of success. And I don't say that because I think we're better than everybody else. I mean, there are people born into this world with admission letters to Harvard stapled to their birth certificates. And that's not us at UT. We know what it's like to have to prove ourselves. We know what it's like to go to a conference where no one knows what the University of Toledo is. I was at a conference at Rice University in Houston, and a woman, there I was wearing a name tag, right? So Josh Breidenbach, University of Toledo. And this woman approached me and she started speaking Spanish, and she obviously didn't know me because I'm very bad at Spanish. That was my worst subject in school. But it turns out she thought I was from Toledo, Spain, because she didn't even know Toledo, Ohio. So I believe, if anything here, we have a fear of failure. And I believe that serves to motivate us. And our self-taught self-motivation will carry us further than any line on our CVs. So part of the reason I was asked to speak here today is that I'm one of few national recipients of a prestigious fellowship through the National Institutes of Health. And the way this works is, you submit an application and you get a score and you find out if you receive the fellowship, but you also get to know what the reviewers thought of your application. You get their comments back. And one of the comments I got back was very boldly stated. It was basically that they didn't expect such a competitive application to come from somebody with my educational background. And so basically, I took that as that we surprised them. And actually, a few months later, a classmate of mine received the same award, another award, and a few months later, we had another one. So we may be underdogs here at UT, but we have what it takes to succeed. And I think that as graduates of UT, we will continue to punch up and surprise people, and it's that I think we could be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Breidenbach. At this time, we will award the Doctor of Medicine degrees. Dr. Randall Worth, Senior Associate Dean for Student Affairs and Admissions, will introduce the degree candidates. Dr. Worth.
The next step in the path that these MD graduates must take to practice medicine in the United States is entering an accredited residency program, which is known as graduate medical education. As detailed in the commencement program, the graduates have chosen to pursue the residency in medical specialties across the country. Some of the MD graduates will be specializing in research fellowships prior to entering the residency training. Dr. Shirley Bodai, Assistant Professor of Family Medicine and Medical Education, and Dr. Coral Mattis, Associate Dean for Foundational Sciences Curriculum, were selected by the graduating class for the honor of hooding the candidates. Would the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Medicine please come forward to be hooded, recognized, and receive congratulations? Audience, please hold your applause until all of the graduates have been hooded. Dr. Humza Z. Khan, hooded by Dr. Amir Khan. Dr. Qasim Ali Jihad Abbas, hooded by Dr. Jihad Abbas. Dr. Kamil Usama Abu Shaban. Dr. Samantha M. Ackower, hooded by Dr. Emma Clark. Dr. J. Akolkar, hooded by Dr. Shalaka Akolkar. Dr. Elizabeth Ann Allen, hooded by Dr. Susan Borchers. Dr. Rachel A. Ahrens, hooded by Dr. Richard Patt. Dr. Rachel Atkinson, hooded by Dr. Douglas Atkinson. Dr. Samar Zakaria Aoub, hooded by Dr. Yasmin Ayoub. Dr. Karen Bach. Dr. Joyce Badal, hooded by Dr. Brian Badal. Dr. Morgan Marie Bailey, hooded by Dr. Danae Hamuda. Dr. Sylvie Bairami, hooded by Dr. Deanna Bairami. Dr. Keenan Bakri. Dr. Danusha Badapati. Dr. Diksha Bedi, hooded by Dr. Shimpi Bedi. Dr. Celeste C. Bergman, hooded by Dr. Catherine O'Malley. Dr. Julia Beyer. Dr. Carter William Billett, hooded by Dr. Jordan Rasp. Dr. Matthew Bonavita, hooded by Dr. Louis Bonavita, Jr. Dr. Laura Brandt, hooded by Marjorie H. Brandt, Esquire. Dr. Camille Bratton, hooded by Dr. Thomas Esper. Dr. Bradley Brickman. Dr. Chanel R. Brown, hooded by Dr. Jalen Brown. Dr. Joshua D. Buskin. Dr. Austin James Campbell, hooded by Dr. Scott Campbell. Dr. Alex J. Carcel, hooded by Dr. Louis Bonavita, Jr. Dr. Sophie Karras. Dr. Russell Keller Cantania, hooded by Dr. Susan Turner. Dr. Karun Chawla, hooded by Dr. Rohini Rana. Dr. Tricia Clark, hooded by Dr. Garrett Flowers. Dr. J. Anthony Koch. Dr. Juliana Lippis Colvin, hooded by Dr. Joseph Safara. Dr. Madison Connolly, hooded by Dr. Carla O'Day. Dr. Jonathan Cooper, hooded by Dr. Christopher Cooper. Dr. Daniel R. Cunahan. Dr. Daniel John Craig, hooded by Dr. Madeline Craig. Dr. Cameron Mark Allen Crasto, hooded by Dr. Jared Crasto. Dr. Nicholas R. Del Cimuto, hooded by Dr. Richard Patt. Dr. Meredith K. DeLuca, hooded by Dr. Kenny Fee. Dr. Monica Devanaboyina, hooded by Dr. Anirudh Reddy. Dr. Pavan Devarasetti, hooded by Dr. Kimberly Jenkins. Dr. Charles Dong. Dr. Sydney Rose Donahue, hooded by Dr. James Francis Donahue. Dr. Cassidy Elise Eby. Dr. Caitlin Rose Einloth. Dr. Taylor C. Eisenman Patel, hooded by Dr. Michael Vale. Dr. Austin Michael Ezone, hooded by Dr. Philip Stokey. Dr. Lena B. Faisal, hooded by Dr. Iman Yusuf. Dr. Louis Filipiak, hooded by Dr. Charles Filipiak. Dr. Allison Franz, hooded by Dr. Michael Franz. Dr. Tyler Vincent Freeman, hooded by Dr. Cynthia DeLauro. Dr. Megha Gangadhar, hooded by Dr. Dasa Gangadhar. Dr. Scott Gayfield. Dr. Pratiti Ghosh Dastidar. Dr. Catherine Girdar, hooded by Dr. Robin Girdar. Dr. Megan Elizabeth Gothard, hooded by Dr. Kathleen Lutter. Dr. Caleb Dean Halfhill. Dr. Keith Hans. Dr. Blair Nicole Hermiller, hooded by Dr. Tate Church. Dr. Nathan Holdman. Dr. Benjamin A. Hosty. Dr. Gabrielle Hemel, hooded by Dr. Gregory Hemel. Dr. Kareem Ali Ibrahim, hooded by Dr. Elizabeth Davis. Dr. Megan A. Ireland, hooded by Dr. Joseph Safara. Dr. Rochelle Issa, hooded by Dr. Mark Issa. Dr. Laura A. Jane, hooded by Dr. Bruce Jane. Dr. Daniela Kesia, hooded by Dr. Angela Kesia. Dr. Nicole Kaplinski, hooded by Dr. Diana Kaplinski. Dr. Devinder Kaur. Dr. Jaskiran Carr. Dr. Jesse Carr. Dr. Gavin Kelly, hooded by Dr. Cameron Crasto. Dr. Jamie Kathleen Kent. Dr. Frank William Kickle. Dr. Amber M. Kim, hooded by Dr. Robert M. Blumenthal. Dr. Troy King, hooded by Dr. Brad King. Dr. Adam Michael Koenig. Dr. Erin Elizabeth Kaufman, hooded by Dr. Boyd Moreau Kaufman. Dr. Barbara A. Kanku, hooded by Dr. Daniel Kanku. Dr. Anita Kodapalli, hooded by Dr. Ven Kodapalli. Dr. Austin Lars Krantz. Dr. Bradley Allen Crapes. Dr. Rebecca R. Kuang. Dr. Eunice Quack, hooded by Dr. Kwang Ju Quack. Dr. Suela Lamai. Dr. Jacob J. Lang, hooded by Dr. Obi Aquena. Dr. Austin James Lee. Dr. Lauren Elizabeth Leby, hooded by Dr. Anita Tamarisa. Dr. Thomas Joseph Cleary McMaster, hooded by Dr. Lawrence McMaster. Dr. Mark Douglas Lewandowski. Dr. Elia Morse Lux. Dr. Malik Tyvel Mays, hooded by Dr. Kimberly Jenkins. Dr. Joseph Riley McTagg. Dr. Zachary McCleary. Dr. Claire Miller, hooded by Dr. Molly Scantling. Dr. Anil Mishra. Dr. Karthik Mohanarangan, hooded by Dr. Michael McCrae. Dr. Cameron Tony Moon. Dr. Jacob T. Mormon, hooded by Dr. Joseph Mormon. Dr. Joshua Ng, hooded by Dr. Willie Ng. Dr. Neely Tan No, hooded by Dr. Donna Woodson. Dr. Melinda D. Wynn, hooded by Dr. Timothy Wynn. Dr. Stephanie Lynn Ong. Dr. Daniel Patrick O'Shea, hooded by Dr. Patrick O'Shea. Dr. Victor Andres Ocio, hooded by Dr. Ignacia Ocio. Dr. Swati Pandravada, hooded by Dr. Victoria Kelly. Dr. James Papadimos, hooded by Dr. Chris Canios. Dr. Radha Upendra Patel, hooded by Dr. Upendra Patel, Esquire. Dr. Mitchell B. Pei. Dr. Evan Allen Pritchard. Dr. Jacob John Radabaugh, hooded by Dr. Sriya Saretti. Dr. Michaela Rasmussen, hooded by Dr. Matt Rasmussen. Dr. Madison N. Rechtenwald. Dr. Philip E. Reed, hooded by Dr. Nathaniel Reed. Dr. Naveen Raymond, hooded by Dr. Tabinda Raymond. Dr. Eric Michael Roos, hooded by Dr. Carl Roos. Dr. Kylie Rostad, hooded by Dr. Joel Kameyer. Dr. Maria Rufiel. Dr. Shaunak Roy, hooded by Dr. Debashish Roy. Dr. Rachel S. Roifman, hooded by Dr. Kyung Jo. Dr. Waleed M. Salem, hooded by Dr. Muhammad Salem. Dr. Mitchell Timothy Salke. Dr. McKenna Grace Salisbury, hooded by Dr. Alexis Salisbury. Dr. Tiana Yazen Sarsour, hooded by Dr. Yazen Sarsour. Dr. Noah Saunders, hooded by Dr. Lori Levison. Dr. Eve Marie Shadowski, hooded by Dr. David Pearson. Dr. Erica R. Sheehan, hooded by Dr. Michael Sheehan. Dr. Allison Schimmel, hooded by Thomas Schimmel, Esquire. Dr. Taylor M. Shook. Dr. Alina Sidwell, hooded by Dr. Stephen Sidwell. Dr. Brandon L. Speedy Martin. Dr. Nicholas W. Stimes. Dr. Kyle Matthew Storm, hooded by Dr. Gavin Kelly. Dr. Samir Ali Syed, hooded by Dr. Rabia Kudas Chaudhry. Dr. Sadia Mansour Tahir, hooded by Dr. Amtul Mansour. Dr. Benjamin Adam Talbot. Dr. Luke Tsai, hooded by Dr. Catherine Chen. Dr. Claire Victoria Turgeon, hooded by Dr. Karen Turgeon. Dr. Shanaz D. Villani, hooded by Dr. Madeline Craig. Dr. Bharat Sivakumar Venkataramani. Dr. Mallory R. Wild, hooded by Dr. Richard Patt. Dr. Alexander P. Bondero. Dr. Laura Wong. Dr. Casey A. Webster, hooded by Dr. Rhonda Hersher. Dr. Samuel Carter Wellborn. Dr. James Wesley, hooded by Dr. David Kennedy. Dr. Emma I. Whiteley, hooded by Dr. Susan Torner. Dr. Brady Michael Williams, hooded by Dr. Amy Williams. Dr. Devonte J. Willis, hooded by Dr. Andrew Bays. Dr. Julia Wright, hooded by Haley Hammerstrom, Esquire. Dr. Brandon F. Yanal, hooded by Dr. Kimberly Jenkins. Dr. Rami Youssef, hooded by Dr. Kimberly Jenkins. Dr. Robert Yaxtheimer, hooded by Dr. Lorene Yaxtheimer. Dr. Paul A. Zamarripa. Dr. Elena Zhang. Dr. Adrian Zhao. Please join me in congratulating class of 2023.
Thank you, Dr. Worth. In order to show their commitment to the profession of medicine, the graduating medical students will now recite a physician's oath. Each year, the graduating class votes for the oath they wish to recite and the classmate they wish to lead the oath. The Doctor of Medicine class of 2023 has selected Dr. Malik Mays to lead the recitation of the Oath of Hippocrates. Dr. Mays, please come forward to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Will the MD graduates please stand? Please join me in reciting the Oath of Hippocrates found on page 46
of the program. Upon this day of graduation, as I seek admission to the medical profession, I do solemnly affirm, as did the ancient Greeks, by all that I hold most sacred that, according to my ability and judgment, I will keep this oath and its stipulations, to hold my teachers in this art equal to my own parents, and extend to them the respect and gratitude which is their due. I will by precept, lecture, and every other mode of instruction impart a knowledge of the art to my sons and daughters and those of my teachers, and to disciples bound by covenant and oath according to the law of medicine. I will follow that system of treatment which, according to my ability and judgment, I consider for the benefit of my patients and abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous. I will exercise my art solely for the cure of my patients and the prevention of disease, and will give no drugs and perform no operations for a criminal purpose, nor far less suggest such a thing. With honor and dignity, I will practice my profession, not permitting consideration of religion, nationality, race, or social standing to intervene between duty and my patient. Into whatsoever houses I enter, I will go for the benefit of the sick and will hold myself aloof from every voluntary act of wrongdoing or corruption. Whatever I may see or hear in the lives of men which ought not be spoken abroad, I will not divulge, reckoning that such should be kept secret. While I continue to keep this oath unviolated, may it be granted to me to enjoy life in the practice of the art, respected by all men in all times. But should I trespass and violate this oath, may the reverse be my lot. Please be seated.
Thank you, Dr. Mays. At this time, we will have the commissioning of our military graduates performed by Dr. Tom Sodeman, Professor of Medicine and Assistant Dean of Student Affairs. Dr. Sodeman.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. President Postal, Dean Cooper, Dr. Williams, graduates, family, and guests. This time I'd like to call our military graduates to the floor. Come on up. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to do one of my favorite jobs in the military, despite the fact that I have to put on a tie, namely commissioning new doctors. So I'm standing between you and the end of graduation. I'll be brief. I'd like to congratulate all of the graduates before us and wish them well as they go forth to serve, especially our military graduates. When I signed on the dotted line a week after my graduation in 1995, I never imagined where both medicine and the military would lead me in the coming quarter century. And looking back, I wouldn't trade a minute for it. I came to that stunning conclusion in the back of an F-16, actually. I hope all of your careers are rewarding, and you one day wind up, as we have on stage, not going in each day just to jobs, but instead going in each day to do the things we love to do and in the service of others. Once again, congratulations, and I look forward to all of your successes. All right, you all can turn around so everyone can see. Please. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am now about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Soderman, and to our military graduates. At this time, I would like to call upon Dr. Samantha Acauer to give the medical student commencement speech. Dr. Acauer was selected by her classmates to deliver the address. Dr. Acauer.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. I don't think I'm going to get used to being called a doctor anytime soon, so that's pretty nice to hear. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm very honored to be chosen to speak to you today, especially my classmates. Over these last 4 years that we've spent together, I really tried my very hardest to get to know as many of you as I could, which you'd obviously think is a pretty tall task considering there was 175 of us at the beginning of this thing. But the truth is, and please hold your groans until the end in case you find any of this a little sentimental, it was actually quite the pleasure. Because it's always been my opinion that Toledo's got some great people. And if you look around you and you think about who was there with you through all that you've achieved to get to this point, I think you would agree with me. So I've had the pleasure of matching into psychiatry recently, and one of the many things that I love about this wonderful specialty is the emphasis not on treating a condition in isolation, but understanding people as the vastly complex, unique beings they are, and using it to inform their management. And something that I learned pretty quickly and have really come to appreciate about having conversations with all of you over the years is that the uniqueness in each of you is mirrored in your journey to and through medical training. And you've all told me such inspiring things about how you want to practice and what kind of doctors you want to be. And it's been especially interesting hearing about everyone's journey to the specialties that they chose. So with the ceremony of graduation, there's always a big emphasis on this inspiration, really looking towards the future and the good that we can do. And we're always reminded of the power that we hold now as physicians and the changes we can make in the world now that we've added those 2 letters behind our last name. But given all that inspiration that we're already focusing on today and the ways that we've inspired each other over the past 4 years, today I actually just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about something else instead, achievement. So there's a tendency in medicine to always be thinking years ahead, preparing for the next step. And that's obviously a very natural perspective in a field where you always have to be learning and evolving. And first it was, what classes should I be taking to satisfy my science requirements? And then how can I get the best score on the MCAT? Followed by applying to medical school, attending medical school, thinking about residency constantly on top of all the challenging coursework and tests, and even just trying to be a well-adjusted human. And now that you made it here today, I bet there's even still some of you who are thinking about what you're going to do to get the best fellowship. But that's not your fault. It's kind of just the way that we've been conditioned. And thinking like that rarely leaves time to truly appreciate the amazing, statistically improbable thing that you just accomplished. And no, I'm not talking about the published research article highlighted on your CV or even matching at your #1 program back in March. I'm talking about sitting here in this arena, waiting to be hooded, having finished medical school. And you don't even need to just take my word for it. I've got some numbers to drive the point home for you. So let's start with the average approximate 2 million college graduates every year that earn bachelor's degrees. And of that pool in 2018, a fraction of that were the 38,483 applicants to U.S. allopathic medical schools. And a further fraction of that, 21,622, were actually accepted. So right off the bat, the day we all started here at Toledo 4 years ago, we were already part of the very improbable 1% of people that had made it to that point. But you didn't stop there. You worked and you pushed through and you accomplished your way to a Doctor of Medicine degree, something only about 20,000 people do every year in the United States. So you're part of the 1%. And I'm sure that you never thought you would hear that after you just looked at your student loan totals and saw your salary and your new residency contracts. But it is true in a different way. And I'm being very, very sincere when I say that you should be insanely proud of that remarkable accomplishment. And you know, the even more impressive thing is still being able to reach that goal even with all the other life that was happening along the way. And really thinking about the things you took on or persevered through, or even the world-changing events that made making it to this day that much harder. Just from talking to you all, I know in this class that there's first-generation college graduates, first-generation medical school graduates, students in their second or third careers. There's people who made the best of moving really far away from home, who had a hard time making friends but stuck with it and will have those people around for life, who more than likely let imposter syndrome boss them around a little bit but pushed through and met their challenges head on. Maybe they failed something important and were able to pass the second time around. Fought a battle with mental health and always managed to come out on top. Who lost loved ones and had to make big adjustments to their lives, or who gained loved ones and had to make big adjustments to their lives. Possibly at one point or another questioned if medicine was right for them, who came back reinvigorated with purpose and having just taken that oath today. I could sit here for an entire hour and name all the entirely extraordinary challenges you faced on the way to earn this degree, but each of you individually knows the sacrifices you had to make and the effort you had to put in to make it to this place. And again, I hope you are immensely proud of yourself for that, because you're very impressive. So when you walk into your first residency activity, or patient encounter, or standardized test come July 1st, and even years after, if you freeze up or you feel the doubt start to creep into your mind about your abilities to learn how to do this job, I want you to take a deep breath and remember that you are part of a very highly motivated and impressive 1% who persevered and achieved training in an incredibly competitive profession. And we can check with Dean Cooper, but they don't give out MDs to just anybody, so congratulations, doctors. Good luck.
You're absolutely right, Sam, and there's a group of special people here today who earned it. Thank you. So graduates, today is your day. Today we celebrate your accomplishments and opportunities for a bright future. Congratulations and my sincerest wishes for continued success in your life's journey. Congratulations and thanks as well to the graduates' families and their loved ones, and to their teachers and their mentors. This concludes today's ceremony. We ask that the graduates, the class hooders, the faculty, and the audience remain in your seats until the platform party has recessed into the arena. As we recess, the platform party is going to stop in this aisleway to join the students for a group photo. Once the platform party stops, students stand, face the back of the auditorium for the photo. Thank you all so much.